Well, I think that if we look through history, whenever there's a war or there's a natural tragedy or an invasion, there's also going to be generational trauma that will need to be healed. And of course, today in Ukraine, we're experiencing already the 8th year of a war with Russia, a war that Ukraine did not provoke, but certainly since the 24th of February of this year, with the full-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine, we've seen the tragic loss of almost 1,000 children who have perished or have gone missing or are wounded. And of course, we can't discount the 10 million people or more who have become displaced either in their own country or now abroad. And those children and their mothers who have had to leave Ukraine because of this invasion have had to leave their husbands and their fathers behind, because men who are between the age of 18 and 60 are in Ukraine either defending their country or involved in essential services. So one can only imagine that if you've traveled over 1,000 miles as a child, and it's not because you're traveling to a holiday camp or on vacation with your family, but you are fleeing your home, which you have seen bombed out, having to cross borders, you are going to have this trauma with you. And I think that one of the most heartfelt experiences that I've had here in England, especially in the United Kingdom in general, is the way that the British people have opened up their hearts and their homes to welcome these temporarily displaced people. And of course, the profile of these temporary displaced people are young women with 1 or 2 children who have arrived, who need a place to stay, who require all sorts of assistance. And I'm happy that we here at the Ukrainian Catholic Diocese or Eparchy of the Holy Family, along with the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain, have been able to provide a service called the Ukrainian Welcome Center here in Mayfair at our cathedral that assists these temporarily displaced people with all sorts of things, whether it's helping them register for the NHS or for schools, or we provide art therapy sessions. We have a Mothers and Toddlers Day. We provide English language courses and English language conversation. But our Ukrainian Welcome Center would not be able to exist without the larger community. So we've been so grateful. When we began this project, the organization, the company McKinsey, assist us with 6 weeks of organizational assistance to make sure that we're in compliance. Certainly CAFRD has played a very, very important role with us in developing our program, making sure that our volunteers and our employees understand what charity rules and charity organizations are all about. We've had a tremendous help from the local community, whether that is from the Duke of Westminster, who has, along with his team, assisted us in renovating part of our cathedral to a standard that we can welcome people. We've had great assistance from the Roman Catholic Diocese and churches throughout England, and the support of so many other organizations. We have 5 full-time employees and well over 60 volunteers, professional volunteers. We have developed a website that assists both Ukrainians and sponsors here maneuver through what could be a complicated bureaucratic system of sponsorship. And this Friday, on Armistice Day, Friday 11th of November, we are hosting, along with the London Oriana Choir and the Elin School Choir, a performance of Requiem for Lost Children in Ukraine that was originally composed by the wonderful British composer Adrian Snell. We'll also be having at that same concert performers from our own cathedral choir, the quartet named Vivo, and so they'll also be performing some Ukrainian inspirational music as well. And all of the proceeds will go to assist the Ukrainian Welcome Center in its activities, but also to help thank all of the community at large who attend, to let them know how much we appreciate what they've been doing, how they've been helping. The more that we're able to assist people feel safe and at home and not to lose contact with their homeland, with Ukraine, I think will assist in that healing of the trauma. Right now, I think we're looking at how can we make people feel at home, comfortable and safe here. And then we need to start looking at how to heal trauma, both when people, if they're able to return to Ukraine, to their country of origin. Almost everybody who I personally have met that has arrived here say they just want to go home, regardless of how welcome they felt here in England. They want to go home. In fact, recently in September, I was able to visit Ukraine, and I visited the cities of Bucha and Irpin, which became sadly very famous 4 months ago or 5 months ago after liberation from the enemy, of the atrocities that were committed, the war crimes that were committed. And I met with the people there. I celebrated Divine Liturgy Mass at our parish. And one of the women that was attending came up to me and said, "It's nice to meet you again, Bishop Kenneth." And I said, "I'm sorry, I've never been to Irpin before. When did we meet?" And she says, "Well, shortly after the full-scale invasion in February, I fled Ukraine and I arrived in England. And I began to attend the services at our Cathedral of the Holy Family here in London. And but she said 2 weeks earlier or a week and a half earlier, I decided I needed to come home. And so I returned to Ukraine because this is home." And she says, "Although I felt very comforted, very welcome in England, home is home." And I found that to be the situation in many ways. I mean, for me, I had spent many years of my life as a priest living and working in Ukraine, and since becoming bishop 15 years ago, I've of course kept in touch and made many travel trips to Ukraine, both when I was bishop in Canada and also since the lifting of the COVID restrictions. But nothing prepared me for the devastation that I saw in the cities that I visited, especially in Irpin and Bucha. Not just seeing the bombed out buildings, the devastation that was left, but the listening to the people and the horrors that they've had to endure. And really, they're heroes in many ways because they are defending democracy for the rest of the world. The defense of democracy, freedom of religion, is being fought today in a European country in this century. Well, the Church has a responsibility both here in the United Kingdom and also in Ukraine to assist those people both pastorally and in other ways. And so, thank God, we have organizations like Caritas, Caritas Ukraine, that is assisting people who are not able to leave, assisting them with food packages, with hygiene packages, finding them shelter. Earlier this year in the summertime, I was visiting again Ukraine, and I visited one of the Caritas centers where they had opened a day camp or a day center for young children, allowing these children to just play and be normal children, and also then allowing their parents to have a few hours of breathing space. And so I visited this particular daycare center, which was for children between the ages of 4 and I think 13 or 14. And, it started out quite normally as one visits these centers. You're greeted at the door, a song is maybe sung. They present you with maybe little pictures that they've drawn. You thank the volunteers and the workers. And then there's the normal group photograph, and they decided that the group photograph should be taken outside in the play yard behind the building. And I've done this before, and usually one of the children would say, "Oh, come and look at our slide, come and look at our swings," or something in the sandbox. And this young boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, grabbed my hand and he said, "Bishop, come and look at our bomb shelter." And that shocked me. But that's their way of life. The bomb shelter, when they hear those sirens, everybody knows they have to go and hide. So I think for me, when I think of those people who have not able, or for all sorts of reasons, have not wanted to leave Ukraine, that we have organizations like Caritas, and which is being supported by CAFRD here in England and Wales. And so we're able to assist them. And because the winter is coming up, we know that things like food and warm clothing is going to become more and more essential. And our Ukrainian Catholic Eparchy diocese will be mounting, even this week, a special campaign to assist in providing those winterized packages for people in Ukraine. Well, one of the messages that everybody said to me when I was in Ukraine, both in July and then later in September, was, "Please don't forget about us. Please remember us. And also, please thank the people of the United Kingdom for all of the things that they've done for us already, for standing with us." And I think of all of the prayer services and all of the masses and all of the prayers that are offered up daily in all of the Roman Catholic churches throughout England and Wales that are in support of those people who are suffering in Ukraine, those who are in transit through other countries. We think of all of the people that have arrived in the border countries of Ukraine, like in Poland and Romania, Moldavia, Hungary, Slovakia, and the people that are caring for them. And so I think, yes, remembering that the war is not over, remembering that the devastation and destruction that maybe we all heard about in Mariupol is still occurring in many of the cities of especially eastern and central Ukraine. The infrastructure in many of the cities has been damaged, and so there are power outages. There is going to be suffering in a way that Europe hasn't seen since probably the Second World War. And so remembering is an important thing, praying for. I think of the incredible march for solidarity with Ukraine that the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, organized earlier this year, where more than 100,000 people spent their afternoon in solidarity with Ukraine. I also think of, again, each of these parishes throughout England and Wales who continue to pray for Ukraine. The number of Ukrainian flags that I have seen flown throughout this great country has been incredible. The response of both private individuals, corporate, commercial organizations, and government in remembering and supporting Ukraine has been incredible. Well, first of all, I think on behalf of all of those internally and externally displaced Ukrainians, those who have recently arrived here, more than 160,000, I think I want to express appreciation for opening one's hearts, one's homes, making people feel welcome here in Great Britain, making those who are assisting the recently displaced people a little bit easier. Not everybody is able to open their homes to sponsoring Ukrainians, but I know that in so many communities, if they haven't been sponsoring a Ukrainian, they've come together in groups, in neighborhoods to help those who are sponsoring. And I think that's a big thing. The literally hundreds of volunteers throughout the United Kingdom who are, helping both in their councils, local councils, and in other parishes. Certainly our Welcome Center does not have the monopoly on assisting those recently displaced. And so I think I would be remiss in not remembering them and thanking them for their kindness and charity.